The crisp winter air bit at Sarah's cheeks, painting them a rosy red, but it wasn't just the cold that made her shiver. Deep down, a knot of worry tightened in her chest. Christmas was just around the corner, a time usually filled with twinkling lights and happy songs, but for Sarah, it felt like a heavy blanket of sadness. She clutched her baby, Lily, closer. Lily was a tiny bundle, warm and sweet-smelling, and the most precious thing in Sarah's life. Yet, every smile from Lily made Sarah's heart ache a little more, because she knew she couldn't give her little girl the Christmas she deserved. Sarah was a kind mother, always putting Lily first. But being a single mom was hard, especially when money was so scarce. She worked hard, doing whatever odd job she could find, but it was never enough. Rent was due, and the shelves in their small apartment were looking emptier each day. She dreamed of a warm coat for Lily, a little toy, or even just a special meal for Christmas Eve. These simple wishes felt as far away as the stars in the cold night sky. Every morning, Sarah would look at Lily's innocent face and promise herself she would find a way. She would pray for a miracle, a tiny spark of hope to light up their dark days. The thought of Lily waking up on Christmas morning with nothing made tears sting her eyes. How could she make her baby happy when her own heart felt so heavy with worry? This Christmas, more than any other, felt like a test of her strength, a challenge she wasn't sure she could overcome. The worry for Lily fueled Sarah's every step. Each morning, after making sure Lily was warm and fed with the little they had, Sarah would bundle up and head out. Her mission was clear: find work. Any work. She walked miles, her worn boots crunching on the icy sidewalks, a stack of crumpled resumes tucked into her bag. She visited every store with a "Help Wanted" sign, every cafe, every office building. She even checked the community boards, hoping for a babysitting gig or a house cleaning job. "We're not hiring right now," was the most common answer, delivered with polite smiles that couldn't hide the finality. Sometimes, they would take her resume, only to tell her they had too many people already. Other times, they would look at her tired eyes and the faint stains on her only good coat, and she knew before they even spoke that she wouldn't get the job. The holiday season, while busy for some, seemed to make it even harder for Sarah. Everyone wanted extra help, but they wanted people with more experience, or a cleaner appearance, or just someone who wasn't carrying the heavy weight of visible worry. She tried not to let the rejections dim her hope. For Lily, she had to keep trying. She would practice her smile in the reflection of shop windows, trying to look bright and eager, even when her stomach grumbled with hunger and her feet ached. But with each "no," a tiny piece of her hope chipped away, leaving her feeling more and more invisible in a world bustling with holiday cheer. It felt like trying to catch water with her bare hands. The harder she tried, the more it slipped through her fingers. Each "no" Sarah heard echoed the emptiness she felt inside. As the days grew shorter and the Christmas lights began to sparkle in the windows of grander homes, Sarah felt more and more alone. It wasn't just the lack of a job, it was the heavy feeling that no one saw her struggle, or if they did, they didn't care. She would come home to their small, cold apartment, where Lily's bright eyes were the only real warmth. Holding her baby close, Sarah would whisper promises she didn't know how to keep. The sadness was a dull ache, always there. How would she buy food for next week? How would she pay for the small heater that barely kept the chill away? Most of all, how would she make Christmas special for Lily? Other mothers talked about presents and parties, but Sarah just worried about survival. She felt like a tiny boat lost at sea, tossed by big waves, with no land in sight. She loved Lily with all her heart, a love so big it sometimes hurt, because it made her worry even more about how she would care for her. Tears would sometimes fall silently onto Lily's soft hair as Sarah rocked her to sleep. She felt like a failure, even though she tried her very best. The world outside, with its carols and laughter, seemed to mock her silent despair. "How will I do this?" she would ask the quiet room, her voice barely a whisper. "How will I take care of my baby?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, making her feel smaller and sadder than ever before. One afternoon, with the sky a bruised purple and heavy with the promise of more snow, Sarah found herself walking without a clear path. She had just left another interview, another polite no. The cold wind whipped around her, biting through her thin coat, but the chill in her heart was far deeper. Snowflakes began to fall, soft and silent at first, then thicker, dusting the world in white. Each flake seemed to mirror her thoughts, countless worries swirling and settling. Her boots made soft imprints in the fresh snow, each step heavy with unspoken questions. How would she keep Lily warm? How would she find food? The city lights, usually a cheerful sight, now seemed to mock her, shining brightly on a world that felt closed off to her. Families hurried past, their laughter carried on the wind, their arms laden with colorful shopping bags. Sarah pulled her worn scarf tighter, trying to shield her face from the cold and her eyes from the happy scenes she couldn't join. The cold seeped into her bones, but it was the worry that truly froze her. It was a physical weight, pressing down on her shoulders, making her tired even when she hadn't done much. She felt small and lost against the vast, glittering backdrop of the holiday season. The city was alive with joy, but she felt like a ghost, wandering through a dream she wasn't a part of. All she could think about was Lily, safe and warm at home, and the desperate need to find a way to make things better for her precious baby. The snowy streets felt endless, just like her worries. As Sarah wandered through the swirling snow, her gaze was drawn to a storefront bathed in a warm, inviting glow. It was a toy store, its windows like sparkling stages displaying a wondrous world. Inside, tiny trains chugged around miniature villages, dolls with rosy cheeks smiled from velvet beds, and plush animals stared out with shiny button eyes. For a moment, Sarah forgot the biting cold and her gnawing worries, lost in the magical display. Her eyes landed on a soft, fluffy teddy bear, its fur the color of warm honey, wearing a tiny red bow. Lily would love that bear, she thought, imagining her baby's little hands clutching its soft body. A small, sad smile touched Sarah's lips. How wonderful it would be to buy it, to see Lily's face light up with pure joy. But the price tag, even from a distance, felt enormous, a sum she couldn't even dream of spending. She pressed her nose against the cold glass, her breath fogging a small circle. She saw other children, warm in their bright coats, pointing and giggling inside the store with their parents. A pang went through her heart. It wasn't just the toys, it was the warmth, the joy, the ease of it all that felt so distant. She lingered there, watching, wishing, feeling like an outsider looking into a perfect picture. The toys, so bright and cheerful, only made the darkness of her own situation feel heavier. Each colorful object was a reminder of what she couldn't give Lily, a painful truth in a season meant for giving. Unbeknownst to Sarah, not everyone was caught up in their own holiday rush. A few steps away, near a glittering display of Christmas ornaments, stood an older woman. She had a kind face, framed by soft white hair, and her eyes held a gentle sparkle, like warm embers in a fireplace. Her name was Mrs. Claus, though few in the city knew her by that name. She wore a simple, warm coat, not fancy, but with a quiet elegance. Mrs. Claus had been watching Sarah for a little while. She had seen the way Sarah's eyes lingered on the teddy bear, the small, sad smile, and the deep sigh that escaped her lips. She noticed the worn coat and the way Sarah pulled it tighter, as if to ward off more than just the cold. Mrs. Claus had a special way of seeing into people's hearts, of sensing their unspoken wishes and worries. And in Sarah's heart, she saw a deep love for her baby, mixed with a heavy burden of despair. She watched as Sarah pressed her face to the glass, a picture of quiet longing. Mrs. Claus knew that feeling, the ache of wanting to give joy but having little to offer. She didn't see a stranger, she saw a mother in need of a little bit of magic, a sprinkle of hope. A gentle smile played on Mrs. Claus's lips. She knew exactly what she needed to do. She took a small, shiny object from her pocket, her eyes still fixed on Sarah, a plan forming in her kind heart. Mrs. Claus's heart felt a gentle tug as she watched Sarah. It wasn't just that Sarah looked cold and tired, it was the quiet, deep sadness that seemed to cling to her like the falling snow. Mrs. Claus saw the love in Sarah's eyes when they rested on the toys, a love so strong it shone through her worry. She could almost hear the unspoken wishes, the silent pleas for a little bit of comfort and cheer for her baby. This wasn't just a woman window shopping, this was a mother carrying a heavy load, trying her best in a world that felt unfair. Mrs. Claus believed in the magic of Christmas, not just in presents, but in the warmth of human connection and the power of a helping hand. She knew that sometimes, the biggest gifts weren't wrapped in shiny paper, but in a moment of understanding, a quiet act of kindness that could change everything. A deep frown creased Mrs. Claus's brow as she watched Sarah pull away from the window, her shoulders slumped. No one should feel so alone during the holidays, especially a mother who loved her child so much. Mrs. Claus decided then and there that she couldn't just stand by. She had to do something, anything, to bring a tiny spark of light back into Sarah's eyes. It wasn't about giving money, but about giving hope, about reminding Sarah that she wasn't forgotten. She took a deep breath, her plan now clear, and began to move closer, her steps soft on the fresh snow. As Sarah turned to leave the toy store window, her head bowed against the falling snow, Mrs. Claus took a careful step forward. With a movement that seemed quite accidental, a small, round object slipped from her gloved hand. It was a beautiful Christmas ornament, shaped like a tiny, gleaming star, and it landed softly in the fresh snow right at Sarah's feet, glittering brightly against the white. It wasn't a loud clatter, just a soft thud that was barely audible over the distant city sounds. But the sparkle caught Sarah's eye. She paused, her mind still heavy with her worries, and looked down. There, nestled in the snow, was the most lovely little star she had seen. It was made of glass, with tiny silver glitter inside, catching the faint streetlights and shining like a real piece of magic. Mrs. Claus, meanwhile, pretended not to notice right away, giving Sarah a moment to see it. She hummed a quiet Christmas tune, her gaze fixed on the shop window, but her ears were listening closely. This little star, she hoped, would be more than just a decoration. It was her way of reaching out, a silent invitation for a moment of connection, a tiny spark in Sarah's dark world. The timing was perfect, just as Sarah was feeling most lost, a small, bright beacon appeared at her feet. The tiny, sparkling star on the ground broke through Sarah's dark thoughts. It was so pretty, catching the light like a fallen jewel. Even though her heart was heavy, her natural kindness shone through. She couldn't just leave something so lovely lying in the snow. Gently, she bent down, her fingers brushing away the delicate flakes. The ornament felt smooth and cool in her hand, its glitter shimmering softly. As she straightened up, she saw the older woman, Mrs. Claus, looking thoughtfully at a window display, humming a sweet Christmas tune. It was clear the ornament must belong to her. "Excuse me," Sarah said softly, her voice a little shaky from the cold and her own tiredness. Mrs. Claus turned, her eyes, warm and kind, meeting Sarah's. "I think you dropped this," Sarah said, holding out the star ornament. Even in her struggle, Sarah couldn't help but return what wasn't hers. It was a small act, but it showed her good heart, her honesty, and her caring nature. Mrs. Claus's face broke into a gentle smile, a warmth that seemed to push back against the cold air. "Oh, my goodness, thank you, dear," she said, her voice soft and melodious, like wind chimes. She took the ornament, her fingers lightly brushing Sarah's, a tiny spark of connection passing between them. Sarah felt a tiny, unexpected warmth spread through her hand. "Oh, my dear, how thoughtful of you," Mrs. Claus said, her voice soft and full of genuine warmth. She tucked the star ornament safely into her pocket. "It's so easy to lose things in all this hustle and bustle, especially around Christmas. You have such a good heart to stop and pick it up." Sarah, unused to such kind words from a stranger, offered a shy smile. "It was no trouble at all," she mumbled, feeling a faint blush creep up her cold cheeks. She was about to turn and continue on her way, but Mrs. Claus didn't let the moment pass. "Are you enjoying the festive displays?" Mrs. Claus asked, her eyes twinkling as she gestured toward the dazzling shop windows. There's such beauty in the city this time of year, isn't there? Though I must admit, it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially when you have a lot on your mind. Her words were gentle, not prying, but they touched a hidden chord in Sarah's heart. It felt good to be seen, not just as another person on the street, but as someone who might have thoughts and feelings beyond the surface. They are very pretty, Sarah admitted, glancing back at the toy store. My baby, Lily, would love to see them. The mention of Lily brought a fresh wave of her worries, but also a tenderness to her voice. Mrs. Claus listened, her expression understanding, a silent invitation for Sarah to share more if she wished. Lily sounds like a lovely name, Mrs. Claus said, her voice soft and encouraging. It must be wonderful to have a little one to share the magic of Christmas with. Sarah nodded, a small sigh escaping her lips. She is wonderful, she said, her voice a little stronger now. But it's been a very hard year. Finding work, keeping warm, just making sure there's enough food. Christmas feels very big and bright for everyone else, but for us, it just feels like more worries. Mrs. Claus listened with deep understanding. Ah, yes, dear. Christmas can be a very difficult time for many, she said, her gaze kind and steady. It reminds us of what we have, and sometimes, what we don't. The world can feel very lonely when everyone else seems to be celebrating. She paused, her eyes meeting Sarah's. It takes great courage to keep going, to keep loving, when things are so hard. Hearing someone acknowledge her struggles, not just with pity but with true understanding, was like a small balm to Sarah's aching heart. She found herself opening up a little more, sharing bits of her story, the endless job searching, the fear for Lily's future. Mrs. Claus didn't offer quick fixes or empty reassurances. Instead, she just listened, nodding gently, her presence a comforting warmth in the cold, snowy air. It was a rare and precious gift, this moment of being truly heard, and Sarah felt a tiny, fragile seed of connection begin to sprout within her. After listening to Sarah's worries with a kind and understanding heart, Mrs. Claus spoke again, her voice gentle but clear. It sounds like you have so much love to give, dear, and a strong will to care for your Lily. Those are wonderful gifts. And sometimes, those gifts are exactly what's needed for a very special kind of work. Sarah looked up, a flicker of curiosity in her tired eyes. Special work, she asked, her brow furrowing slightly. She couldn't imagine what kind of job Mrs. Claus might be talking about. She'd applied for everything from cleaning to cashier, but special work sounded different. Indeed, Mrs. Claus confirmed, her eyes twinkling like the Christmas lights around them. There's a place, not far from here, that looks for people just like you, especially this time of year. It's a job that involves helping others, bringing a bit of warmth and cheer to those who might be feeling as lost as you have been. They need kind hands and gentle hearts to sort donations, deliver warm meals, and just offer a friendly smile to people who need it most. Sarah listened, her mouth slightly open. A job helping people? That sounded like something she could truly do, something that would make a difference. It wasn't just about earning money, but about using the very kindness she possessed. It's called the North Star Outreach, Mrs. Claus added, pulling a small, folded paper from her pocket. They are looking for compassionate people to help spread hope this Christmas. Sarah's eyes widened. A job? After so many rejections, after so much despair, the very idea of a chance to work felt like a sudden ray of sunshine breaking through the heavy clouds. She had been so sure that no one would give her a chance, that her luck had completely run out. But here, a stranger, a kind-faced woman, was offering a real possibility. A small gasp escaped her lips. A job, she repeated, almost disbelievingly. The word itself sounded like music. Not just any job, but one that sounded meaningful, a place where her kindness would be an asset, not a hidden quality she had to keep tucked away. The warmth from Mrs. Claus's words spread through her, chasing away some of the cold she had felt for so long. A tiny, hopeful smile started to form on Sarah's face, replacing the usual weary lines. It wasn't a guarantee, of course, but it was a lead, a direction, a glimmer of light in the overwhelming darkness. Her heart, which had felt like a heavy stone, now fluttered with a new, delicate hope. She looked at Mrs. Claus, her eyes filled with a mixture of surprise and profound gratitude. This wasn't just a casual suggestion, it felt like a lifeline. "Thank you," Sarah managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much." The idea of providing for Lily, of easing her own worries, suddenly felt a little less impossible. Seeing the genuine hope bloom on Sarah's face, Mrs. Claus smiled even more broadly. "Now, this information about North Star Outreach," she began, reaching into a different pocket of her coat. This time, she pulled out a small package, wrapped simply in brown paper and tied with a red ribbon. It wasn't fancy, but it felt warm, almost radiating a gentle heat. "Consider this a little something to keep you warm on your way there, and a small Christmas wish from me." She pressed the package into Sarah's cold hands. Sarah was completely taken aback. She hadn't expected anything, and the warmth from the package felt so comforting against her chilled fingers. It was so rare for someone to give her a gift, especially a stranger. "Oh, no, you really don't have to," Sarah stammered, feeling a fresh wave of emotion, a mix of embarrassment and overwhelming gratitude. "Nonsense, dear," Mrs. Claus replied softly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Everyone deserves a little warmth, especially at this time of year. Think of it as a small reminder that even in the coldest days, there's always kindness to be found." Her touch was gentle as she closed Sarah's fingers around the package, making sure she held it securely. The paper felt soft, and a faint, sweet scent, like gingerbread and pine, seemed to come from it. Sarah could feel the warmth seeping into her skin, a physical comfort that matched the new hope in her heart. With Mrs. Claus's kind words still echoing in her ears and the unexpected warmth of the package in her hands, Sarah felt a flutter of excitement. As Mrs. Claus wished her well and melted into the crowd, Sarah found a quiet bench tucked away from the main street, eager to see what lay inside the small, thoughtful gift. Her fingers, still a little numb from the cold, carefully untied the red ribbon. Inside the simple brown paper, nestled softly, was a beautiful scarf. It was a rich, deep red, made of incredibly soft wool, and it felt wonderfully warm to the touch. It was exactly what she needed, a perfect shield against the biting winter air that always seemed to find its way through her old, thin scarf. A gasp of genuine pleasure escaped her lips. This was not just a scarf, it was a hug, a comfort, a sign that someone cared. As she gently unfolded the scarf, a small, folded piece of paper slipped out and landed on her lap. It was a note, written in elegant, flowing handwriting. Sarah picked it up, her heart beating a little faster. It wasn't just a gift of warmth, it was something more, something important. This was the information about the North Star Outreach that Mrs. Claus had mentioned, a real chance, nestled right inside this unexpected act of kindness. Sarah's fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the small paper. The elegant handwriting was neat and clear. At the top, it listed an address and a phone number for North Star Outreach, along with the name of a person to ask for, Mr. Henderson. This was real, not just a passing suggestion. This was a concrete opportunity, a path forward that had been hidden moments ago. Below the job details, there was a personal message, written with the same beautiful script. Dear Sarah. May this scarf keep you warm, and may the star remind you that even in the longest night, there is always a guiding light. Your kindness shines brightly, and the world needs your gentle heart. Go with courage. A little hope can spark the greatest miracles. Star. With warmest wishes, a friend. Star. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. It wasn't just a job lead, it was a message of encouragement, a recognition of her inner strength that she herself had almost forgotten. Your kindness shines brightly, the note said. No one had told her that in a very long time. The words were simple, yet they held a powerful comfort, a belief in her that felt like a warm hug. It made her feel seen and valued, not just for what she could do, but for who she was. The cold outside still nipped, but inside, a new warmth began to spread, a quiet belief that maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Reading the kind message, a feeling Sarah hadn't felt in what seemed like forever began to stir within her. It was a small, warm bubble, starting deep in her chest and gently rising, pushing away the cold weight of despair. This feeling was hope, real and tangible, not just a distant dream. It was the hope that things could truly get better, that she wasn't alone, and that there was a path forward for her and Lily. The scarf, now wrapped snugly around her neck, felt like more than just warm wool. It felt like a hug from the universe, a silent promise that good things were still possible. The note, clutched in her hand, was a map to a new beginning. For weeks, she had walked with her head down, her spirit heavy. Now, she lifted her chin a little, a tiny spark in her eyes replacing the dull ache. She thought of Lily's bright smile, and for the first time in a long time, the thought didn't bring a pang of worry, but a surge of determination. She had a chance, a real chance, to make a difference, to earn money, and most importantly, to show Lily that even when things seemed darkest, light could appear from the most unexpected places. The snow still fell, the city lights still twinkled, but now, Sarah felt a part of the world again, infused with a newfound courage and a bubbling, joyful hope. The next morning, with a newfound spring in her step and the red scarf a warm comfort around her neck, Sarah made her way to the address on the note. North Star Outreach was a warm, welcoming building, unlike the cold, formal offices she was used to. Inside, soft music played, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and pine. She felt a nervous flutter in her stomach, but it was mixed with excitement. She asked for Mr. Henderson, just as the note suggested. He was a man with a gentle smile and kind eyes, much like Mrs. Claus. He greeted her warmly and led her to a small, cozy office. The interview wasn't like any she'd had before. He didn't just ask about her work experience, he asked about her heart, about why she wanted to help, and about her hopes for Lily. Sarah found herself talking openly, sharing her story with a sense of trust she hadn't felt with anyone else. As she waited in the reception area after her talk with Mr. Henderson, she saw other people coming and going. They were all different, young and old, but they all shared a common thread, a kindness in their eyes, a gentle way of speaking, and a clear dedication to helping others. They smiled at her, offered her a warm cup of tea, and made her feel like she already belonged. It was a place filled with the spirit of generosity, and Sarah felt a deep sense of belonging for the first time in a very long while. She realized this was a place where empathy truly measured wealth. A few days later, the phone rang in Sarah's small apartment. It was Mr. Henderson, and his voice was as warm as it had been during the interview. "Sarah," he said, "we'd be delighted to have you join the North Star Outreach team. We think your gentle heart and strong spirit are exactly what we need." Sarah's own heart leaped with joy. She had done it. She had a job. She started almost immediately, eager to begin this new chapter. Her days were now filled with purpose. She helped sort mountains of donated clothes, making sure they were clean and folded for families in need. She packed boxes of food, imagining the smiles they would bring. Sometimes, she went out with a team to deliver warm meals to elderly people living alone, or to hand out blankets and hot chocolate to those sleeping on the streets. Each interaction was a small act of kindness, just like the one Mrs. Claus had shown her. Sarah found joy in seeing the gratitude in people's eyes, in offering a comforting word, or simply sharing a warm smile. She remembered the feeling of being unseen, and now, she made sure to truly see everyone she helped. She wasn't just working for money, she was working with her heart, bringing light to others, just as Mrs. Claus had brought light to her. The work was tiring sometimes, but it was a good tired, a fulfilling tired, a feeling she hadn't known in a very long time. With a steady income and a meaningful job, a wonderful change came over Sarah. The heavy knot of worry that had lived in her chest for so long began to loosen and fade away. Each day, as she helped others, she felt a quiet strength grow inside her. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving, in her own way. Coming home to Lily each evening was now a pure joy, unclouded by fear. She could buy fresh food, keep their little apartment warm, and even set aside a few coins for a special Christmas surprise for Lily. The constant question, "How will I take care of my baby?" was replaced by a confident, happy feeling, "I can take care of my baby." She would watch Lily play, her small daughter giggling at a handmade toy Sarah had crafted from spare fabric, and a deep sense of happiness would wash over her. It wasn't just about the things she could provide, it was about the peace in her own heart, the knowledge that she was capable and strong. She felt a lightness, a freedom from the crushing weight of poverty. Sarah was proud of the work she did, proud of the life she was building for them. This feeling of security and happiness was the greatest gift, knowing her beloved Lily was safe and loved, with a future that now seemed bright and full of possibilities. One evening, as Sarah tucked Lily into her warm bed, she thought about the little star ornament she had returned to Mrs. Claus. She still wore the red scarf, now a beloved item, and often reread the kind message from a friend. It hit her then, like a gentle wave washing over her heart, that simple meeting, that small act of kindness, had started everything. Before that day, she had felt lost, invisible, and hopeless. But because Mrs. Claus had seen her, because she had dropped that sparkly star, and because she had taken the time to talk, Sarah's whole world had changed. It wasn't just the job, it was the feeling of being valued, of being reminded that her kindness mattered. That one quiet moment of compassion had opened a door she hadn't even known existed. She realized Mrs. Claus hadn't just given her information, she had given her faith. Faith in people, faith in kindness, and faith in her own ability to overcome hardship. It was a miracle, not a grand, loud one, but a gentle, unfolding one. A small act of dropping an ornament, a few kind words, a warm scarf, these tiny things had led to a life where Sarah felt strong, capable, and happy, knowing she could care for Lily. She understood now that true wealth wasn't in money, but in the empathy that connected one human heart to another. The lessons Sarah learned from Mrs. Claus, and the kindness she received, became a guiding light in her own work. She remembered what it felt like to be cold and hungry, to feel invisible. So, when she handed a warm blanket to someone shivering on a park bench, she didn't just give the blanket, she met their eyes with a gentle smile, offering a moment of connection. When she served hot soup, she lingered a moment, asking how their day was going, truly listening to their answer. She found herself seeking out those who seemed most alone, just as Mrs. Claus had sought her. She remembered the power of a kind word, a small gift, a simple act of being seen. She made sure that every package of food she packed had a little note of encouragement, just like the one she received. She told stories to the children at the shelter, making them laugh, knowing how much a little joy could mean. Sarah didn't just do her job, she poured her heart into it. She became a beacon of warmth at North Star Outreach, a reflection of the kindness that had saved her. She saw that spreading compassion wasn't just a duty, it was a way of living, a way of making the world a little brighter, one small, thoughtful act at a time. The cycle of kindness had begun with Mrs. Claus, and now Sarah was proudly carrying it forward. Christmas morning arrived, not with the cold dread of last year, but with a soft, gentle light filling Sarah and Lily's cozy apartment. The little tree in the corner, decorated with a few simple ornaments and some paper chains Sarah and Lily had made, glowed with a quiet magic. Lily, now a little older and full of excited energy, woke up to the smell of pancakes and the happy feeling of a truly special day. Sarah watched her baby's face light up as she unwrapped a small, soft teddy bear, not the expensive one from the store, but one Sarah had carefully chosen, knowing it would be loved just as much. There were also warm new mittens and a colorful picture book. Lily's giggles filled the room, a sound more precious than any carol. Later, they shared a simple but delicious Christmas meal, cooked with ingredients Sarah had bought with her own hard-earned money. The apartment was warm, filled with laughter and love. Sarah wore her red scarf, a symbol of the turning point in their lives, and felt a deep, peaceful joy. This Christmas was everything she had dreamed of and more, not because of grand gifts, but because they were together, safe, warm, and full of hope. It was a Christmas of true wealth, measured not in presents, but in peace and the quiet happiness of knowing everything would be all right. As the snow continued to fall gently outside, blanketing the world in peaceful white, Sarah looked at Lily, sleeping soundly beside her new teddy bear. The tiny apartment, once a place of worry, now felt like a haven of warmth and love. It was hard to believe how much had changed, all starting from a moment she almost missed. That sparkling ornament, a dropped scarf, a few kind words from a stranger, these weren't grand gestures or big sums of money. They were small, almost invisible acts, yet they had created a ripple effect, turning Sarah's despair into hope, her loneliness into connection, and her poverty into purpose. Mrs. Claus had not just given her a job, she had given her a new beginning, a belief in the unseen magic of human kindness. Sarah understood now that miracles weren't always loud or flashy. Sometimes, they were quiet, like a star falling in the snow, or the warmth of a stranger's smile. They were built on empathy, on seeing another person's pain and choosing to offer a hand, a word, a small gift of hope. And in turn, that kindness could spread, making the world a brighter, warmer place for everyone. This Christmas, Sarah didn't just celebrate a holiday, she celebrated the profound truth that the smallest acts of kindness truly can become life-changing miracles.